Welcome to CHF Informations. The Titanic sank 100 years ago, killing around 1,500 people. The majority of the dead were never recovered, but others claim to have found remains near the ship. Following the sinking of the Titanic, a massive search and rescue operation was launched. Several ships were promptly dispatched to the disaster region. The Carpathia, the closest ship near the Titanic when it sank, arrived more over an hour later and began searching for survivors. The Californian arrived about 5 hours later, having been further away when she heard the SOS call. The Carpathia rescued around 700 people from the lifeboats and supplied them with medical attention and housing. Several more ships, in addition to the Carpathia, were dispatched to the location to assist with body recovery. The White Star Line chartered the cable-laying ship Mackay Bennett to collect as many bodies as possible. The Mackay Bennett arrived on the area several days after the disaster and spent the following 2 weeks searching for and rescuing victims from the water. The ship was furnished with coffins, ice, and embalming materials, and the crew was paid twice as much as usual. On April 20, 1912, a rescue ship arrived at the crash site and recovered 306 bodies. Due to a lack of preservation supplies, 116 third-class passengers were buried at sea, with only 56 of them being recognized. Despite this, she returned to the harbor of Halifax, Canada, with roughly 190 bodies on board, including the body of John Jacob Aster IV, whose retrieval earned the crew a $100,000 bounty. The White Star Line chartered the Minia, Montmagny, and Algerine to aid in the search for and retrieval of bodies. The Canadian government warship CGS Acadia also assisted in the recovery effort. The recovery process was grueling and often gruesome, since the cold water and strong currents made it impossible to find and retrieve the bodies. To collect the dead, the ships involved in the recovery operation utilized a variety of methods, including dragging grappling hooks over the ocean floor, pulling victims from the sea with long poles with clips attached, and even diving to rescue those that had sunk to the bottom. More than 300 bodies were recovered from the ocean in the days and weeks following the Titanic accident. Many of the unrecovered victims are still entombed in the ship's debris at the bottom of the North Atlantic. Given the circumstances, the bodies of Titanic passengers were treated with the utmost dignity and respect when they were removed from the water. Typically, the bodies were transported aboard the ships involved in the rescue operation and subjected to a variety of treatments to help preserve them for the journey back to shore. One of the initial procedures in the care of the bodies was identification. Typically, recovered bodies were laid out on the ship's deck for identification, and any personal possessions located on or near the deceased were recorded and bagged for safety. Following that, the bodies were often embalmed or chemically treated to aid in the prevention of decomposition during transportation. This was especially critical for bodies that would be carried over great distances or might be delayed in arriving at their destination. The sinking of the Titanic was a tragic and significant event that rocked the world. The accident killed almost 1,500 passengers and crew members, leaving devastated families and a legacy of sadness. The recovery of those who perished in the disaster was difficult and frequently unpleasant, but it gave closure and respect for those who died. While many of the unrecovered bodies are still entombed in the Titanic debris at the bottom of the North Atlantic, the retrieval of those uncovered allowed us to pay tribute to the victims and honor their memories. The narrative of the Titanic and her passengers and crew continues to captivate people all across the world, and the memory of those who died in the disaster lives on. May they all rest in peace, wherever they may be. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to our channel.